All right, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tiffany. I am a remote work coach, and I want to spend this video talking a little bit about leaving the US, especially for those of you who are feeling anxiety regarding what's happening, or you've already had a plan to leave the US for a while. I mean, the same with me. I planned on leaving the US for a couple of years and then I made the decision. I gave myself a year and then I actually did it. But did it need to be a year? No. And what I'm finding is that I'm talking to a lot of people who live here in Mexico or in other parts of the world, and so I see a lot of the same themes of people being nervous or anxious to do it for so long. They procrastinate it, they start over and over and over. And honestly, it comes down to your fear of taking this large risk. I mean, it's a huge life change, but ultimately, once you've done it, you realize it's a lot easier than you thought it would be, blah, blah, blah. The rest is history. But I've been getting a lot of DMs on my other platforms talking about like just urgently wanting to leave the US, trying to figure out a way to make it happen. And I wanted to create a video to mainly address the people who have decided to leave. I do want to briefly address the people who you've been thinking about it, but you haven't quite made the decision. I want to say that I think you have to start with mindset. You have to start with those limiting beliefs that are telling you, I can't make this happen because of XYZ. A lot of the reasons I'm finding on my social media, the comments, people are saying, I have student loans, I have a car payment, I have debt, and maybe taxes. People are coming up, and these reasons initially they're very valid, but there are also solutions. Solutions like filing for bankruptcy, getting a loan. You can pay your student loans from anywhere in the world, especially when your costs are low. So I just wanted to address those things. There's always an answer. There's always a way to get around it, especially when you have community. Join the free ones. This is not what I'm going to focus this video on, but I want to speak to those people who have decided that they want to leave the US, but haven't necessarily taken the steps towards it. Like they are ready, they have a move abroad fund, they know where they want to go, or at least they know some of those requirements. So I have left the US over a year ago and I decided to move to Mexico. I have my reasons. I can talk about that in another video. I really want to do a video on like some of the ways in which leaving the US has just made me so much more at peace, and I feel like my nervous system has been reset. I get more time to like spend with myself and figure out how I want to spend my days, and that's exactly the type of energy that I want to share within my own community with the people that watch my content. I want to make everyone aware and remind everyone that you can create more from your life than just focused on capitalism and corporate and trying to make money or trying to work all the time. The hustle culture is definitely toxic to our bodies, to our health, and all of those things. Those people who do want to leave the US and you have decided it, but you're not exactly sure what next steps to take, I wanted to talk through some options. Some things might be obvious, so stick with me because maybe some of them don't apply to you, but I want to make sure that I'm addressing a large portion of the people that are watching this video. So one of those things, the initial thing that might be obvious, it doesn't apply to everybody, but what people might not consider at first is that you could take the job that you currently have and you could leave the US. And that's the most streamlined process ever. And I think that people don't think about it. They often think, oh, my company doesn't. So this could look like a number of ways. This could look like going through your employee handbook and figuring out the rules and regulations are. If your company has branches in other countries or your remote work clauses, you'd have to go through that. You'd be surprised to learn how many of my clients have not considered this because they thought that they would get a no. At the end of the day, you don't know until you ask. So that is the number one thing. Your company could either fund or figure out a way for you to leave the US or work from another country, or someone you're connected to at your current company could give you connections. That's the initial bubble. We're kind of working from center to the outer options here. And again, this might not apply to everyone. That's fine. The next thing that I would consider is, do you want to stay? Do you want to stay within the field that you've been working within? And this is a huge conversation that I even was addressing this topic. I was addressing even before the topic and the conversation of leaving the US became so prevalent online in the online spaces. because the job market has just shifted so much, and it's constantly shifting, right? So the jobs that are going to exist in 5 years are not the jobs that are available right now. And same for now. The jobs that exist now didn't exist 5 years ago. So if you haven't job searched for a few years, or maybe if you have been laid off and you're not exactly sure, do you stay in your field? I think that's really important to reassess in this time. I know it sounds really obvious, but you really need to reassess, is what I'm currently doing something that I can continue doing, something I could take with me? Are there other things that I'm not considering? And this is where I think a lot of people kind of miss the mark, because you spend some time here, and this happens so much in my one-on-one calls where I work with a client and they're like, they've been doing one thing and they're not necessarily committed to doing that thing. And that's honestly the sweet spot, because that opens up your opportunities to work in a lot of different areas. So that means you could really do so many different things with the skills you have, and that's exactly what people are really looking for right now. If you can find flexible ways to apply your skills, and what people are not considering is, how are the skills that you've gained working, living and working in the United States beneficial to companies that are not based in the US? Because there's so much value, especially if you work in certain spaces like marketing, like tourism, or like in anywhere in the digital space, that maybe some aspect of it that's specific to the US, taking those skills and reshaping it that maybe you didn't think to put on your resume before. Because why would you put those things on your resume if you're applying to jobs in the US? Right now, you're expanding your mind and thinking about, okay, how can I take these skills and apply them in a global way? And I want to bring everybody back to the goal of my page. I have gone through so many different experiences in the past 5 years, as I'm sure many of you have. And so many of us just want to not focus on work. You want to work on your nervous system and be able to release so much of the hustle culture and the capitalistic mindset. And I'm totally here for it. I've worked in career coaching for years, and I debated whether or not I wanted to do this. But the reason why I do this is because it's so important for us to remember that there's more to life than work. You figure out how to change your life around and not focus it on work, but you're able to be flexible when it comes to your location. You're able to take your experiences and like do whatever you want. That skill is what I'm trying to teach and what I'm trying to share with everybody, because there's really so much that you can do once you take a step back and you're like, actually, I don't need to be hustling in this way. I want to talk about how to go about identifying things that are currently available to you that you might not have considered before. You can find a lot of this information in my other content, as well as my freebie and my remote work guide that I include, how step by step how to identify your skills and make it a fit for jobs that are remote, for jobs that are hiring now, especially if you haven't necessarily been outside of your field or you haven't job searched in this way before. So, my theory when it comes to the job market in the next 5 to 10 years, what we're going to see is a lot of people that are blending their work types. So, maybe you work part time doing something that was from your old field, and then you work part time doing freelance. Maybe you have your own business. Because I think this is a direction that people are going in to become more aligned with their natural desires, or how they want to use their gifts, their talents, their skills, their experience. And I think that if you can retrain your brain to accept this model, then you are going to be really, really successful. Here are some jobs that you might not have considered before, or you might think that you weren't a fit for. So, in today's day and age, what do most companies need? They need marketing. They need anything that has to do with the digital space. So, if you can lend your skills to digital marketing, to content management, to be a virtual assistant, things like that. And again, you don't have to work full time. I know people doing 20 hours of virtual assistant making similar amount of money as they were making in their full-time opportunities, their full-time jobs. And this is really important to remember, because you don't have to do what you've been doing for 5, 10 years. You could do something completely different, and doing something like this could give you more space and time in order to actually figure out what you want to do. So if you have experience doing content or working in the digital space, in marketing, in email marketing, in social media, SEO, running ads, anything along those lines, and you can even figure out how to learn additional skills. Digital marketing might be something for you. You can apply on some of the remote job boards that I post about all the time, marketing specific job sites. Another thing to consider is teaching English abroad. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to teach children. You can also teach adults English. And going through programs that offer the TEFL certification, sometimes they help you find a role. This might not have to be your full time opportunity, but it definitely is a way for you, especially for those who are already coming from a teaching background. This is a good opportunity for you to find something in the next 90 days. This is one of the quicker ways that I find that people can leave the US is working as a teacher. And this is a good way to pivot into anything else. You can easily leave the US, get a job as a teacher, and then use the time, use the space, use the money the extra time that you have, the extra energy that you have to figure out what it is that you can do. I think people think, oh, I have to find something that I know I'm going to have for the next 5 years. Nothing in life is certain. I would say this is definitely one of the most successful routes that you can take. Another type of role that I don't think people are considering are virtual assistants, right? This could be for a startup or this could be for a small business. Sometimes the job postings aren't on LinkedIn or Indeed. Sometimes they're on Facebook or Instagram, like a company or a small business owner that you follow. They oftentimes could be hiring virtual assistants. It's something that you could look for on a freelance basis. And for example, one company might pay you $500 to get this amount of stuff done, and another company could pay you $500 to get this amount of things done. I think this is a great model to consider as well, especially if you have teaching or assistant experience, or even just any like entry level experience. You don't even have to be entry level. Just if you're looking for something that is lighter weight and doesn't require as much energy or as much your brain cells. I think this is a great opportunity because I think that virtual assistants can actually be quite lucrative, especially if you have a lower cost of living in another country, working as a virtual assistant part-time. You can find these opportunities on Upwork or Fiverr. You can find these opportunities on Upwork or Fiverr, sometimes on LinkedIn. Again, I mentioned Instagram and other social media platforms. The opportunity that you consider is technical writing, content writing, user experience writing, and anything along those lines. I think another thing that you should really be mindful of is how job titles are listed. Sometimes they are those roles, but they're labeled as something else. So it's important to search by keywords and look through the job descriptions to make sure that it's something that you could do, or just to make sure that you're not dismissing it. So technical writing, content writing, these are things that if you have any writing experience, if you've been in the education space, this is a great option because, again, this is also something that's buildable, that's scalable, that you can turn into a business, that you could do freelance or you could do full time. I think it's a brilliant idea to go after jobs that you could either turn into a business or you can do in a scalable way, or you can build some kind of a side some kind of side hustle income on. Like, it doesn't have to be your main meal, for example. Again, I don't want this video to be too long. I just wanted to give you some things that you could work with, a jumping off point, and to have you reconsider how you are approaching the job search for your move abroad. Because it's honestly something, like, if you consider some of these options, I truly believe that you could leave the US within 90 days and actually have income to make it sustainable, and be able to either go in the route of using this to create your own business, or using this as a jumping off point so you can make income while you can focus on your passions, your interests, relaxing, whatever it is, especially when you're building a location independent lifestyle. And if you stay to the end, I really want to reiterate that if you've decided to do it, that is great, that is wonderful. And by it, I mean leave the US. If you've actually decided to do it, Congratulations. Oftentimes, people find themselves falling off of their progress because they get overwhelmed. And that is why having a container, having a community of other people that are supporting you along the way, that, when you feel like giving up, when you get stuck, you have that redirection, you have the coaching that you want available to you on a weekly or multiple times a week basis. This is why I created my remote work coaching community, where essentially I have office hours, I have workshops, I have resume reviews, anything that my clients, that the community members need. If you want to talk about creating content online, we can have a workshop around that as well. I've been thinking about that. I've also been making subliminals. If you believe in rewiring your subconscious, I think it's a really important part of making huge life transitions like this, because it's not just about landing a remote role. This is not just about finding remote work. And this is why I really wanted to start my page, and I contemplated it for a while because I didn't really know, how do I talk about career coaching? How do I talk about remote work in a way that is like, it actually works for us? Because now people want to relax more. They want to figure out what they are aligned with. And so much of that comes with rewiring your subconscious from the idea that you have to hustle all the time. And so, thank you again for joining. If you have questions around remote work, I'm going to be posting more content soon about different ways to enter into remote work opportunities, as well as like step by step how to do it. Especially if you're looking to leave uh, and go to Mexico, I can connect you with a visa specialist that can help you go through that process and streamline it. We see what's going on. So I understand where people are coming from. So please feel free to drop some comments so I can use that. I can answer your questions in the next